Forged from Iron is proud to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham United fans and friends inspired by the work of other football fan food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations from Newham Food Bank in Beckton, who supply 7 distribution centres in the borough, 7 days a week, and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. They are supported in their efforts by West Ham United Football Club, the WHU Foundation, LS185, London Legacy Development Corporation, Newham Council, the Met Police, Spire London East Hospital, Expedient Security, and a large number of West Ham and football fans. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thank you for your support. Come on, you Irons. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Forged from Iron. It's another one of these impromptu streams. I had the idea of doing it in about the last half hour or so. Stuff it, why not? Please, as it says there, guys, please don't forget to like, comment on and share the stream to your social media platforms and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. We're only 3 away from hitting the 1,500 subscribers waypoint. So please, let's get over that line. As always, we thank you very much indeed for your support, ladies and gentlemen. So we are here. I've brought Irish Tommy in and to have a little discussion. We had a little bit of a back and forth last week on the last episode of Talk West Ham, didn't we, Tom? And it was quite well received, mate. So I thought I'd get you back in again.
Yeah, always happy to jump on with you and help out.
No problems. Always appreciated, mate. Always appreciated. So. I was, as I spoke to you earlier, just off camera earlier, Tommy, I was at a family event yesterday, so I wasn't maybe abreast of all things going on in the world of West Ham and all the rest of it. But when I got to a position where I could sort of gen up and sort of have a look, I was quite surprised because it appears that the betting on Rafa Benitez becoming our next West Ham manager had been suspended, which is usually a little bit of an indicator. That's usually a sort of the radar goes up at that point. So we've obviously gone from a position where apparently the shortlist was Benitez, Bielsa, Dyche and Nuno, and then the betting was suspended on Benitez. I mean, if he's the next cab off the rank, Tom, what's your thoughts?
It's very underwhelming. You know, this is it's ridiculous. I mean, it's Sullivan, isn't it? That list is pure Sullivan. It's like you can imagine him kind of going to a cupboard somewhere and taking out a piece of paper and dusting off, getting the cobwebs on the dust off it, and give him a little blow on it, and then having a look and say, right, who could be the next manager? And it's a list that's been in there for years, you know, and it's still got the same old names on it, you know.
Yep.
Rafa Benitez and Sean Dyche.
5 years ago.
You know, yeah. So it's a bit depressing, really. You know, look, I think at this stage it's still better than leaving Moyes in charge. You know, if it was a case of, look, Rafa's going to come in for 6 months, and then in the summer we'll go and get a permanent manager who isn't Rafa Benitez, then I'd say, okay, fine, just do it. But it's still really underwhelming. I mean, it's just it's a kind of a clueless signing really of a chairman who just doesn't know what he's doing when it comes to appointments. It's there's so many managers out there, you know, that should be ahead of Rafa Benitez on this list, and Sullivan's just got no clue about any of them, frankly. You know, you'd be looking for someone a bit more progressive or you know, better than Benitez. I mean, I remember, see, I still have Everton Benitez in my head, you know, and that wasn't good. You know, that was really, really bad when he was managing them. Really, really bad. And
was he on
so
a
I
hiding to
worry.
nothing?
Sorry?
Do you think he was on a hiding to nothing there? Former Liverpool manager, won the FA Cup with them, won the Champions League with them. Do you think that that he was basically a dead man walking from the moment he went in? There was nothing he could do.
Well, with the fans maybe, but you know, presumably the players were happy to play for him. You know, I don't think the players really cared too much about all that stuff. I know the fans were completely against it from the beginning, and obviously it doesn't help if you're a manager. But you know, even Benitez, you know, with his history with Liverpool, could have won them over if they'd have played really well, if they'd been winning games. You know, if he'd have really got them going. I think it would have at least quietened the fans. You know. So yeah, I mean, it was a tough one for him to go into. I don't doubt that, but you know, still on the pitch, you know, they didn't perform. They were really poor, and the problem is, if we do sack Moyes and bring in Benitez, I'm not convinced that he'll keep us up. Quite frankly, I mean, he got relegated with Newcastle, remember, as well, and although they kept him in charge, he was able to bring them back up. But I just worry that Benitez again is kind of. I think Benitez now is in the dinosaur range. You know, we talk about dinosaur managers. I think Benitez is in that bracket now. You know, he's old news. You know, so I'm really worried that he wouldn't be able to turn things around sufficiently to keep us up.
The one thing I will say about Benitez is, to be fair to him, I mean, you made the point that he was obviously at the helm when Newcastle got relegated in 2016, I think it was. It has to be noted, he only walked through the door in March. They was already well and truly on the way down the gurgler when he walked through the door. And I think it's fair to say he walked it through the door a little bit too late to really be able to influence anything. I mean, it would be a bit like if we're still in this sort of struggle in March and they pulled a trigger on Moyes in March, it's like, well, whoever comes in can't really be blamed for the relegation, can they? So I don't blame Benitez for that relegation. And as you said, he did get them promoted. And the one thing I noticed from that list of four that I mentioned earlier, which was Rafa, Nuno, Deitch, and Bielsa, the one thing that straight away struck me, I looked at it and went, they are all managers that have relatively recently, been promoted from the Championship to the Premier League. And I thought, is that what they're thinking is that if the worst comes to the worst, they might be able to they might be best equipped to get us back up. Whereas Moyes has never been promoted from the Championship. So if they kept faith with him, he's got no track record of getting promoted to the Premier League. These guys have.
I doubt it. I don't think that's in his thinking. I think it's just coincidence. But I think he just doesn't really know anybody else, to be honest. I mean, those are the names that Sullivan's been able to come up with. He doesn't know managers on the continent. You know, he's not willing to pay out to take a manager from another club. You know, so it's got to be someone who's going to be nice and cheap, who's out of work, who desperately wants a job, and would jump at the chance to be back in the Premier League. And those four fit that bill. Easy to get, cheap to get, and they'll be yes men, because they'll be like David Moyes. They'll be very, very grateful to be in a job. So it's fucking pathetic. I'm getting angry now that I talk about it. Yeah, so that's why he's bringing them in. They're cheap, they're available, they'll be yes men because, like Moyes, they'll be very grateful to be at West Ham. It's pathetic.
The one I know what you're saying. The one that I think of those four, though, that I don't think would be a yes man would be Bielsa. I just don't think that him with his South American sort of temperament. I mean, if you look at his his record down the years, he's had a number of fallings out with people above him in the hierarchy. I don't see him as a yes man. I think possibly the other three, maybe. I possibly, but Bielsa's the one that I think, yeah. But out of the four of them, saying about Bielsa, I think he's probably the one that I think that, in all honesty, probably doesn't fit with the squad that we've got. I don't know about you, Tom, but I look at Bielsa and think he plays a very high tempo, high pressing style of football. We've got a very old squad. I'm not quite sure we've got a squad that would be able to play that style of football.
No, and we lack pace, so it's going to be very difficult for Bielsa to get them playing the way he wants to, with the lack of pace that we have in the team. So I wouldn't see that working anyway. I wasn't too hot on Bielsa. It wouldn't be boring, certainly, but it's just his style of play is just too unpredictable. It's hard to have consistency under Bielsa. Leeds were great to watch under him. We all enjoyed watching Leeds games under Bielsa to see if they were going to win 4-3 or lose 4-3 this week. But that's not what we need going forward, I don't think. So as exciting as it might be, and maybe a bit of an antidote to Moyes ball, but I just wouldn't see how that would bring any kind of long-term success or stability.
Kent's come in with a comment. He says, turgid football coming with Benitez after Saturday, but he may keep us up. Short-term deal. His accolade guys are many moons ago. He got relegated with Newcastle. No longer deal than end of the season. As I say, Kent, in fairness, as I say, he didn't walk through the door until it was March. They was already in the shit when he walked through the door. So I'm not quite sure you can pin the relegation entirely at the feet of...
I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree that you can't pin the relegation on him. They were obviously in trouble when he joined, but I just don't recall there being any appreciable uptake in their form or results when he came in.
No, that's fair. That's fair. But if the choice was very simply, Tom, we keep David Moyes till the end of the season, or we pull the trigger on him, whether it's now or whether it's after the Everton result, what do you think you would go for on balance, Moyes or Benitez?
I would take Benitez over Moyes if that's the binary option. We either keep Moyes or bring in Benitez. I'll bring in Benitez because I genuinely believe that we'll get relegated under Moyes. I really do. I think. I agree the style of play under Benitez wouldn't be fantastic either, but I think a fresh face, fresh ideas could just be enough to lift the team. And he is a good coach, and he's a very good coach. He's a very good manager. He's very good with players on a personal level. Afternoon, James.
James, check your...
he's a very good manager one-on-one with players. Apparently players really do like him. He's very good with them. So I think he would give us a better chance of survival than Moyes. I think Moyes is going to get us relegated. I really do. So I would roll the dice. But like I say, I wouldn't want this to be any more than till the end of the season. And hopefully by then we can line up a manager that we feel can take us forward in the long term, because it certainly won't be Benitez.
Do you think, though, that if we went to a manager, and whether that's Benitez or whether it's Dyche or any of the other names that have been mentioned, or an other, and we turn around to him and say, like we did with Moyes in his first stint, here's a contract for 6 months, let's see how it goes. Do you think that those managers, primarily those four managers, would actually go, yeah, that's fine? Or do you think they're going to go, no, actually, I would like actually a minimum of an 18-month contract, thank you very much, or I'll walk away?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say what they think. I think Benitez would probably go for it. There's no other show in town for Benitez, really. It's probably West Ham or bust for him, as regards Premier League. and I'm sure he would love to be back in the Premier League. So Benitez probably would take the 6 months and say, look, let's see how it goes in the second half of the season, and we can revisit how things are going then. And if things have gone really well and things are working out, then we can look at giving you a new contract. Benitez might go for it. I doubt Dyche would go for something like that. Dyche, I think, will probably be the Everton manager very soon. So I think he probably feels as well that he might be able to hold out for that, because Everton are going to be looking for someone to get them out of trouble, and Dyche would be one of the obvious kind of candidates for that. So I don't think Dyche would go for it. Bielsa, I don't think, would entertain that for a second. I think Bielsa has a big enough name that he'll get a job sooner rather than later, as a permanent manager. And the other was who?
Nuno.
Nuno. No, I don't. Nuno would go in for 6 months, kind of trial period. Again, he's a manager. I think will get a permanent job somewhere. I think Benitez is just kind of the one that's in the weakest position, if you like. So the other three, I don't think so, but Benitez might go for it.
The Everton game, which obviously James has just referenced there, and so I had a conversation with someone earlier in the week that articulated the point. Well, what if Moyes wins? If Moyes wins against Everton, which isn't beyond the realms of possibility, they're not going to sack him after that. And by the time the next Premier League game comes to pass, if we beat Everton and they go, okay, there's a sign there that we're on the recovery trail, we just won a game against a relegation struggler, that means that there's going to be no manager coming in before the transfer window shuts. So whichever, if they pull the trigger on him latterly, the new manager's got no wiggle room in terms of getting any bodies in that might be able to implement their style of play. This is a dangerous place to be, isn't it?
Yeah, and the board have put themselves in this spot. So it's hard to know what Sullivan's thinking is at the moment. Has he already decided that Moyes needs to be replaced and Moyes is getting sacked whatever happens against Everton? Maybe he's got Rafa ready to go. If so, like why wait? If so, why wait until after the Everton game to bring him in? That would make no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
That would be nonsensical. Yeah, if you've made the decision, just do it. Just do it. Just sack him. Get Rafa in, and let's get him up and running. I wouldn't be surprised if Moyes gets sacked after the Everton game, regardless of the result. I really wouldn't. If you're going to do it, it still gives. Let's say, just for argument's sake, let's say it is Rafa. Okay, Rafa would have a couple of weeks left in the transfer window. He'd have an FA Cup game the following week, so there'd be a little break before his next Premier League game, and he'd have kind of a bonus game against Derby to kind of implement what he wants to implement and run it and get a proper look at some of the players. So that would be a good time to do it if it's been decided that we're going to do it. However, if winning against Everton will save David Moyes' job, then you may as well just stick with him till the end of the season. You may as well, because what's the point in bringing in somebody after the transfer window closes, when the fixtures get really tough? You're kind of getting too late now. You may as well just bloody see if Moyes can keep us up. I don't think he will, but the later you leave it, the more difficult it gets for the new manager anyway. So it's crazy, really, that we've allowed this, that the board have allowed us to get into this situation. Yeah. Absolutely crazy. This should not be happening. Moyes should have been long gone, and we shouldn't even be considering Rafa Benitez to take over at West Ham. When the Villa go out and get Unai Emery and Wolves go out and get Lopetegui and we're looking at fucking Rafa Benitez, it's, oh God, it brings me back just all the bad memories of the board over these past kind of 12, 13 years where it's like, just get them out of my club. They're fucking useless.
One point, and Peter's just made it in chat, is that one thing that Benitez would do that Moyes, we've discussed several times, would give one or two youngsters a go. Do you think that is in his favour, or do you think that he would probably not be giving youngsters an opportunity in a relegation dogfight?
No, I think the timing wouldn't be right for him doing that. I think he would have to stick with established players. I think he would certainly want to get a striker in. He'd want another striker in. But I think it would be tough for him at this point to start chucking youngsters in.
Yeah.
Blooding them, because, in a relegation dogfight, as you say, this is when you need, pros who are relatively experienced, at least, who can really roll their sleeves up. Chucking a youngster into that environment isn't ideal. No, if he had the job long term, I'm sure that would be different next season, should we survive. Certainly be different if we're in the Championship. But yeah, just for this second half of this season, I wouldn't expect to see too movement as regards starting to bring youth players through.
Well, James makes the point there that he believes that Rafa would have more pull in the transfer market as far as getting players in than David Moyes would. Do you go along with that?
Certainly, he's established himself as a bigger name internationally than Moyes. Really outside of the Premier League, there's no players that would be thinking, "Oh, I'd love to play for David Moyes." They don't really know who. Yeah, they don't. Yeah, they don't really know who he is. So obviously Rafa Benitez has that international profile. So I think James is probably correct there. That when a player hears the name, Rafa Benitez wants to sign you for West Ham, then obviously they know who Rafa is. They know he's won cups, he's won Champions League, FA Cup, stuff like that. So yeah, that could well be the case. He certainly has the higher profile internationally, no doubt about that.
Fair. Before we get on to the second topic that I wanted to discuss with you, Tom, Martin asked a question a little bit earlier, and we did this on, I don't know if it was the review or the preview for the Wolves game. I think it was the review. Do some predictions in our remaining games. He says he thinks a maximum of 15 points, and we are doomed, because that would give us 30 points. I did this the other day, and I put us on 16 points in what remains of this season, which puts us on 31, and that's absolute racing certainty. That's relegation, Tom. So if you don't mind, before we go on to the second topic, you've got to keep the running tally, though, mate. I'm useless.
Tell you what, I've got part of it done.
Have you?
On my own show a couple of weeks ago, I did the my prediction for our next 10 games.
Okay.
So that was before Wolves.
Okay. Does the Wolves fixture massively sway any of the next 10 fixtures for you?
No. So including the Wolves fixture, in the next 10 games, I think I gave us about 13 points.
Okay, so that's Everton, Newcastle.
No, including Wolves.
Okay, so it's the next 9 then. So Everton, Newcastle, Chelsea, Tottenham, Forest, Brighton, Villa, Man City. So that took you up to the set, and including the Southampton fixture.
Including Southampton, yeah.
Okay, and you had how many points at that stage?
I said around 13.
13. Okay, so from that point on, 13 points plus Fulham away.
Fulham away. Obviously, look, it's hard to tell what other teams' form is going to be like at the time we play them.
Exactly.
But I can only go on how they look at the moment. And going away to Fulham, they're a decent side. Fulham, they play quite nice football. It would be a tough enough fixture. And I'm also assuming the Moyes is the manager, right? So, going away to Fulham, at best, I would say we'd get a point in that game. I'll give us 1 point. Let's go 1 point away at Fulham. Maybe we can nick a draw there.
I actually remember when I did this, that was one of the few games that I said we'd win because we've got a really good record at Craven Cottage.
Yeah.
Arsenal at the London Stadium. Should I just move on?
Yeah, move on.
Bournemouth away.
Bournemouth away. Probably one of the few games that we'll win.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Bournemouth are poor. From what I've seen of them. So, yeah, I'll give us the 3 points. Yeah, because look, I can't just say, we'll lose every game. That's not realistic.
No.
We're going to win some games along the way. So I'll give us a win there. So I think that brings us up to about 17 points.
Yeah, you've got 4 points added to whatever you had when you did yours. So
yeah, 13 before, so 17.
Okay. London Stadium, Liverpool.
Loss.
Selhurst Park, Crystal Palace.
We tend to do quite well at Palace.
And
again, Palace are, they're a bang average side. They're not great. Let's go mad. Let's give us a point there.
Okay. At London Stadium, we play Manchester United.
That'll be a loss the way they're playing.
Away to Brentford.
Oh, fucking loss. He's got our number. Thomas Frank's got Moyes' number all day long. We'll lose that.
Unless he puts out the reserves like he did in the Cup. London Stadium, we face Leeds United on the 20th of May.
We're at home. We should have done better.
Our last home game of the season.
I think we'll beat them.
So you're going for a home win?
Yeah. We're going to win some game.
Yeah. Last game of the season, we go to Leicester City.
Tell you what, that could be a massive 6-pointer, couldn't it?
Could be.
Away to Leicester. Yeah, I don't fancy that one at all. Actually, Leicester away to Leicester. They don't scare me either. They're a vulnerable team, but
yeah,
they could be desperate to. Let's give us a point. Go on.
So, how many points have you managed to conjure up in that?
I think between now and the end of the season, I've got us on around 22 points.
22 points. That's so. What's that? We got 15 at the moment, right?
Yeah.
So that's 37.
That's relegation, yeah.
Well, I don't know. I've seen some seasons where you've had a team that's been down there with that amount of points and they've got out of it. But I think more often than not, 37 points gets you down.
Yeah, I think Southampton will pick it up a bit. Probably not much. I still think they'll get relegated. And while Bournemouth, I think Bournemouth will go as well. But again, I don't think Bournemouth are not. They're not cannon fodder. Bournemouth are going to pick up some points as well. They're not a terrible team, and I think the likes of Wolves and will pull away. I think Leeds will be down there thereabouts, but I think they'll do enough to stay up. On those points, I think we'll finish 18th, if I'm honest.
Fair. We've got a late addition to the stream, ladies and gentlemen. James, how are you?
All right, mate. I'm just on the train, so I couldn't really do anything, but I won't let you down. So, I was just doing what you've got to say.
Appreciate you jumping. Where you heading? Or are you coming back home?
I'm going to Suffolk, mate.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. Mrs. lives there now, so from London to Suffolk.
Yeah. Do you want to play this little game as well before we move on to the second topic of the day?
Go on, mate. Whatever you want to do.
Right. Okay. You're going to have to keep your scores. So basically, I'm going to give you the remaining fixtures, and we're going to try and work out what you think we're going to get. Now, obviously, I appreciate that our form could go up, could go down. Their form could go up, go down, and it's all done on the basis of Moyes being the manager at the time. all of which might change, but we got to do it with what we got. So Saturday, James, win, loss, draw. What we doing?
I think we win Saturday, mate. I think what it is, I think they'll be up for it because of the David Gold tribute thing, and I think they get the 3 points.
Okay, right. So that's 3 points. Newcastle away.
None.
Okay, so we're still on 3 points. Chelsea at home.
I think we can get a point against them. London Derby, the way they're playing, yeah, that's our point.
Fair. So that's 4 points. Tottenham away.
Same as mine, James. Same one as mine. I allowed as a point for the Chelsea game as well.
Spurs is an interesting one because you just never know what's going to turn up. I'm going to say a loss.
Fair. At home to Forest.
Win.
So that puts you on 7 points. Brighton away. Should I just move on?
Yeah, we don't win there, mate. So move on for that one.
Yeah. So West Ham, we play Villa at home.
I say a draw in that game. I think Villa improved under Emery.
Okay. 8 points. I'm probably going to move on this next one because it's City away.
Yeah.
Okay. West Ham v Southampton.
I'm going to say a win on that one. Don't know why. I've got a feeling that he might turn up against that one. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
So yeah, I'll go win.
That's 11 points. Away to Fulham.
That's a draw at best. They're playing well. It all depends in Europe also with injuries. So I say draw.
Yeah, we've got a good record for fairness, but okay, we'll go with a draw. So that's 12 points. At home to Arsenal. Again, should I just move on at this point?
Yeah, move on, mate.
Fair. Away to Bournemouth.
Win.
Okay, so that's 15 points. At home to Liverpool.
I'm going to say a draw, mate. It all depends if they're in how they're getting on in the Champions League and things like that. If they're because their league's gone basically, like them winning the league. Yep. I think top four's gone. So I'm going to say a draw in that game. I think we can get a draw out of it.
Okay, so that's 16 points. Away to Palace.
Last few seasons we've done all right at Palace, so I'm going to say a win there.
Nice. That puts us on 19. At home to Manchester United.
We just don't beat United at home, mate. That's one thing. We ain't done it for a good while. I'm going to say a loss on that one. They're playing well.
Okay. So that's still 19, right?
Brentford away. We don't win there either, so that's another loss.
Leeds at home. Last home game of the season.
I'm going to say a win on that one.
Okay, so that's now moving us to 22 points. Leicester City away.
If they're fighting and we're fighting, then that's a big game, final game of the season. I'm going to say a draw at best on that one. I don't think we can beat them up there, especially if they're fighting well.
So that gives you a total, if I've done my maths correctly, of 38 points total.
Yeah. Yeah, 38. I don't know, mate. I'm honest. It is. It's going to. The only thing I will say is if we don't pick up points at the weekend, then that 38 looks like a massive milestone to get to. I think we have to win at the weekend. I think 38 is doable, mate. It is if we get the right people in and they start playing. But I think 35 upwards, I think we could be safe with that, especially if tight is. So hopefully.
Okay, right. Let's move on to the second topic that I wanted to discuss. Again, as I said to Tommy earlier, James, just in case you weren't aware, I was at a bit of a family event yesterday, so I wasn't able to look at a lot of the stories that were going on until I got out, by which time it was quite late. But the story that Julian Alvarez was essentially rejected by David Moyes because of the scintillating form at the time of one Michail Antonio. James, I'll go with you first because obviously I've had Tommy on for a little bit longer, so I just thought I'd give you the opportunity first this time, if that's okay, Tom. What did you make of it? I mean,
It's embarrassing, isn't it? Let's be honest. Last year, we all of us doing the YouTube game would have covered the transfer window. To not get no one was bad enough, but to not get no one and then be offered someone of world class status, because he will be a world class player, that striker. It's just embarrassing, mate. It's just embarrassing. And if you remember rightly, he come out and he said, what was it in his interview? He said, we couldn't find the players we wanted. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you turned down a player that you could have had. And he, not only that, he went against Rob Newman and all, which is, Rob Newman had a massive success at Man City for what he done. He brought in Aguero, Company, Silva, to name a few. And I was bitterly disappointed. And to me, Dithering Dave is why it's called Dithering Dave for a reason at the end of the day.
Fair. Tommy, what did you make of it? I mean, given his success in the Premier League and then going on in the World Cup, I mean, when this story came out of, and these came out of David Moyes' own mouth on a podcast, this is not something that you're looking, oh, did he say that? You know, was it? No, he's actually come out and admitted that he's turned away the opportunity to sign this guy. I mean, what did you make of this?
It's astonishing. I mean, it's just astonishing. You know, given the situation we were in, you know, we're flying really high in the table. We're doing really well. We're in the Europa League last 16, and we've got one striker. And like James said, he said, you know what? I took a look at him, and you know, I thought he's a really good technician. He looks a really good player, and you know, I liked a lot of what I saw on him, and I just thought, I'm not really sure. And it's like, that's David Moyes all over, isn't it? It's just, Mickey's playing really well. So we've got one striker, and we're going to get back to European football in March, and we desperately need a second striker in. And here's a very talented young man who you can have for 14 million quid. And he's like, no, we'll just keep going with Antonio. I mean, it's mind-boggling how this man's mind works. Absolutely mind-boggling. I just can't believe it. And it's like, it's hard to wrap my head around that kind of thinking. When you know you've got one, what if Antonio, like, did no one at the club say, David, look, you can keep playing Antonio if that's what you want to do. You're the manager, but would you not like, you know, a really talented young backup striker, you know, Argentinian international, you know, on a few teams' radar, you know, we can nick him here, 14 million. 14 million is a punt.
Exactly. I was going to say, it's like 14 million quid. If that would have changed us from getting to a European semi-final into possibly the final itself and maybe winning the Europa League, which then would have qualified us for the Champions League, for goodness sake, that 14 million you get back and more.
Yeah, I mean, it just boggles my mind the way this man thinks. And like James just said, Dithering Dave, it was that bit at the end as well when he said all those good things about him, all positive, or he liked what he saw from him. And it was like, well, I'm just not sure. I don't know. You know, it's like, fuck off, Dave. Really, like, fucking clown.
To go against Rob Newman, mate, I'm sorry, but he's a man who's got massive experience in scouting for Manchester City. Like, he's done it for a long, long time, and he's brought Man City probably their best ever team, some of them. Do you know what I mean? And to turn it away, and then he ends up at Manchester City. To me, that is just like a criminal offence, mate. Really, it's like it shouldn't be allowed. Like, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. The only thing I will say is I think West Ham's mentality has to change. Their mindset has to change. We're too sentimental with players, and we're too sentimental with managers, and that's got to stop, in my opinion. It really has.
Yeah, and frankly, I don't like the whole notion of managers deciding which specific players are going to join the club. The manager shouldn't be making that decision, in my opinion. Like, Newman is there, he has a job to do, he's there for a reason. Like, if Newman's going to be coming to Moyes with these really good players, and Moyes is just going to say, nah, I don't know, not sure, maybe let's leave this one go, then there's no point having Rob Newman, Rob Newman and his scouts are doing all the due diligence on these players and saying to Moyes, right, we've identified a player we think is mustard. And then done all that work just for Moyes to say, nah, don't fancy it. And no, sorry, Moyes, we're signing him. Fuck you, we're signing him. We need a striker. We've identified this guy as a really, really big young talent from Argentina, River Plate, and we're signing him. I'm sick of managers deciding what players come in. Now, I don't mind, David Moyes can go to Rob Newman and say, look, I could use a striker, or I could really use a left back who can get up and down the pitch, good deliveries, good defensively, good solid all-round left back. And then Rob Newman can say, right, leave it to me. And then he can go off and they can do their scouting and the due diligence, do up their reports. And then they can have their guy, say they have a list. These are the 3 that we really like in order. And then, we'll sign the best one we can get. And then say, here you go, David. There's that fucking left back you were looking for. Moyes should not be able to say, no, I don't want to sign this player. It should be, no, we're signing him. End of story. That's it. If you don't like it, the fucking door's that way. No manager should be telling us what player we're signing. Obviously, have a relationship with Rob Newman and say, I need this and I need that. But then once Rob Newman goes and does his work with his scouts and identifies them players, the club signs the player, not the manager. Like, Moyes should not have been in a position to say no. What the fuck does Moyes know about Alvarez? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Probably saw a few clips.
We're paying Rob Newman all this money, and he does all that work to identify a cracking young talent, just for Moyes to poo-poo it, and then we don't sign him, and then he ends up, signing for Man City for 14 million quid. I'm sorry, that's too much power for a manager. Moyes shouldn't be able. No manager going forward should be able to do that to our club. No manager. Have a relationship by all means, and say you need this or you need that. But after that, we decide which player gets signed. End of story.
Yeah, and I just wonder, sort of, 14 million quid. Like I say, number one, if he'd have been able to transform that European semi-final into getting to the final and winning it, which gives us the riches of the Champions League. Like I say, that 14 million pounds is, swamped up by the money you're going to get just for sort of getting to the group stages. And not only that, but then what would he be worth? Having gone to the World Cup, done what he did for Argentina, win the World Cup. This is parallel universe talk, sliding doors. He goes to the World Cup, a West Ham player. He comes back, a West Ham player with a World Cup winners medal. He's not worth 14 million quid anymore. More like 40, 50, 60, whatever. Brilliant.
Yeah,
but
it's ludicrous. But and I mean, Antonio's goals had already dried up at that point. And they would stay dried up for I think the rest of his career at that point. He hasn't started scoring goals since, and had already dried up. And to not want to bring in a backup striker like that for 14 million. What's the worst case scenario? He doesn't work out and we sell him for 10. Big shit. 4 million quid. Who cares? I mean, to have a young, talented striker like that, identified by Rob Newman, and to not be willing to bring him in on for 14 million quid and see what this kid's got. I mean, when Antonio is your one striker, the goals have already dried up. What if Antonio gets injured for the rest of the season? I mean, I just don't know what goes on in Moyes' head sometimes.
It is madness, mate. It is madness. I'll be honest with you. I'm just hearing what you were saying. To allow us to go with 13 outfield players for last season, because that's what it was really. When you look at it, we had 11 starters and the 2 subs were the 2 subs every single week. To let that come out this week also, it's just it's criminal, mate. It's criminal. At the end of the day, it's such a shame.
We have to change the structure of this club. We have to change the structure of the club. If you're not going to change the structure and it's going to stay the way it is, you might as well just sack Rob Newman because he's pointless.
Charlie goes on, just to sort of add a little bit of balance. He does go on to say every manager has a player that they've been recommended and for whatever reason turned them down. I mean, the big one that I can remember just off the top of my head, and I'm sure there's many, many more, was Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Arsene Wenger. He had the opportunity to sign him. I believe that he asked him to come. He had him in a trial game. He brought him back and said, "Oh, can I have a play in another one?" And apparently he turned around and said, "Zlatan doesn't do sort of retakes," or something along those lines. He basically didn't play ball, and obviously went on to have the career that he had. This was like when he was a teenager or whatever. And he makes the point Charlie says about Neymar and obviously West Ham as well being another case in point. So this does happen. It's just that this has come at the wrong time. You know, it's like
I think it does happen. Yeah, it does happen, Rob. Yeah. But I just want to say this, right? It does happen, but it doesn't happen to a team when you've got basically 13 players. Do you know what I mean? He's like this is like last season we was crying out for a second striker because we knew that we were going to have like games like Thursday, Sunday, like for the rest of the season, basically. And to let it go was like anyone would have come in. If it would have been, like, even if it wasn't Alvarez, if it say it was someone else on loan, as long as it was someone at West Ham, like we needed someone, and to not get no one was just criminal.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I agree absolutely with that. It's not about the individual player. This could have been someone else other than Alvarez. Could have been someone else. It's not the individual player really that irks me. It's everything James just said about how desperately we needed to get a striker in, and the structure at the club that should not allow for this kind of thing to happen. I mean, we're linked with this Lorient striker now. Apparently, we've had a bid rejected for him, so I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But you know, what if Moyes does the same again? What if Moyes said, "Yeah, I don't know," you know, and then we end up not signing him either because Moyes, you know, doesn't know. So it's ludicrous.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rob made it. I'm just looking for. He made the point earlier. Oh, there we go. How many others has he turned down? This is the one he remembers. So there might be others that we've been offered, and whether it's a left back, whether it's a right back, whatever position in the last 2.5 years, where he's gone, no, that's all right, and that they've gone on to sort of big success. This is the one we know about.
But how can we trust him there, Rob, moving forward? That's the problem.
Yeah, it does kind
in the transfer market.
If he'd have done this interview when he was no longer West Ham manager, long after he'd sort of moved on, I really wouldn't give a shit. But in the situation we're in right now, for him to come out in a podcast and go, "Oh yeah, I turned down a guy that last month won the World Cup." Excuse me? Really? Like, I don't need to hear that right now, Dave. Ridiculous.
He's clueless. Like, what the fuck does David Moyes know about players outside of, you know, established Premier League players? What does he know about players on the continent or in South America or anywhere else? Not a fucking thing. That's the whole point of having Rob Newman there. He identifies the talent. Only for Moyes to say, I don't know. It's crazy.
James?
It is, mate. Like, listen, I feel the frustration as much as you lads do. Like, and I remember last year doing like stuff on my channel. Rob was probably doing stuff on his channel about the transfer window, and to not get no one, to me, that's just criminal. At the end of the day, to come out of it now and say that we had a chance to get someone and not get no one, it's just wrong. It's just wrong.
I actually did a piece on Alvarez. I remember doing it.
And the irony is then, you know, where Moyes just trips himself up, puts his foot in his mouth all the time. He talked, you know, he was complaining this season that, you know, it's not easy. We had to bring in 8 players and try and integrate 8 players. It's not easy to bring in, you know, integrate so many players. Yeah, because you signed fucking nobody in January when we needed them. You could have got 3 players in January and have those 3 players bedded in for this season. Now you only have to fit in 5 players. And a couple of those are probably going to be squad players anyway. So you only have to bed in maybe another 3 first-team starters at the start of this season. You know, he's an idiot.
Yeah. David makes the point here in just looking at the comments, boys. I'll come at you first with this one, Tom. How many more negative stories on and off the pitch have we got to hear before Moyes gets the push?
Hopefully one more, at maximum. Hopefully only one more maximum, and then he's gone. Fingers crossed.
What do you think,
Not that I
James?
want us to. Oh, just to clarify, that's not me saying I want us to lose against Everton. I've never in my life, under any circumstances, wanted West Ham to do anything but win. But just to answer the question, how many more, negative things have to happen for him to be gone? I hope he's on his very, very last chance. So the next
maybe the next story
that does happen, hopefully that will be it.
If he gets caught in a knocking shot midweek and gets the sack as a result of that, maybe that's the negative story. We go to Everton, we turn them over. What about you, James?
I really hope if he gets the sack for something like that, like some kind of extracurricular activity, I pray to all the gods that it'll be because he was shagging Sullivan's bird.
Or something like that. Yeah. For me, I think it's already a done deal, mate. I got a phone call yesterday from someone who's like a professional gambler, and they was telling me about the market was changing for Moyes to go. Obviously, the podcast come out, and basically that podcast really was like the final nail, I think, in a very much big coffin. If he's here after the Everton game, win or lose, then we are in trouble, serious trouble. There's no two ways about it, and I think he's already gone. I think they will give him to the end of the week, get the Everton game out of the way, which is not right. I agree with what Tommy said earlier on. He should be gone now, but I think they're going to do it after the Everton game, and then basically I think Rafa Benitez will be in, mate. If I'm honest.
Here we go. This comment from Dean's Life here, boys. He's read that the offer for Moffey was 5 million less than they'd already turned down from another team. Moyes obviously doesn't think he's better than Antonio Evia. Where are you, James? What do you say about that? We've gone in with an offer of 5 million under what they've already said they've already rejected from another club.
Well, look at it this way: we lose a game against Wolves. Then the next thing you know, we're going after a striker, and then we lowball ourselves again. It's the same old cliche. The thing is, I said it earlier on Twitter. People say about the fan base is negative at the minute. You can't lie to a West Ham fan, mate. That's the one thing you can't do, because they will look past the bullshit and go, "This is not on." And really, what we're seeing is now is just media spill being put out there for basically just sort of shut us up and go, "Oh, look what we're trying to do. We've tried. They don't try hard enough, in my opinion. And I think it's only a matter of time before they're going to get another Burnley 2.0, I think.
Tommy?
Yeah, look, to be honest, I don't know what other bids have gone in for Muffy or how much there were from who. I'm not up to date on that. I know we offered 20 plus 5 million add-ons. It was rejected. We may go back with another bid. We may not. I don't know. But whatever happens, we've got to get a striker and a left back in this window. We have to. If we're going to improve our situation and give ourselves a better chance to survive, it won't happen as we are. I think at left back we're desperately in need of quality. I think at right back as well needs to be addressed, but we can probably get away with that till the summer. Definitely a striker and a left back. So they better either go back in with an improved bid for Muffy. I always wonder about these when we drag these fucking things out. I mean, do we not talk to the club that owns him? Do we not just say, look, what's an acceptable bid? How much are you looking for this guy? And if they say, if they say, look, we want 30 million for him, and 5 million add-ons, then at least you can just say, okay, we can do that, or just say, nah, we're out, and then you move on. This, I don't want to see fucking bid after bid after bid going in for one player. It grinds my fucking gears. You're talking to the club.
And what does that remind you of? Go back to last summer. A player that we're going to be facing at the weekend, Onana, all over again. Bid after bid after bid, trying to get the man in and not getting him. It's the same thing again.
Yeah, it should take one phone call to establish what they value him at. You just ask. If it's too rich, just say, all right, we'll leave it. We don't think he's worth that. Say, look, our best bid would be this. That would be our best offer for him. We think that's about as much as we can go for this player. And they can take it or leave it. And then if they take it, happy days. If they don't, we move on. We have other targets, surely. And, this faffing about. I swear to God, if I see, this evening or tomorrow, we've put in an improved bid for him. Fucking hell! It's like
we do it all the time. We did it with Calvin Phillips last year. We've sort of jacked it up from 50 to 55 to 60. All three got rejected, and then obviously he stayed because obviously, and I understand that Leeds were in a bit of a relegation.
They didn't want to sell him.
Yeah,
they didn't want to sell him in January. They said we're willing to sell him in the summer, but not now. You just say, all right, fair enough. We might come back and talk to you in the summer.
It's like that Harry Enfield character, I'll get you. And he gets out this big sort of like suitcase. It's like, no, the train's already gone. You're not understanding me. No, go on, another £5 or another 50 quid. I'll go on then.
What it is, at West Ham try and do their transfer market like a market stall, mate. That's the problem. They don't do it professional enough. And like I agree with both of you. Put a bid in, go to what they want. If you can't match what they want, move on. But what makes you laugh is we're trying to get this player in, and we look at Alvarez. We're going to have him for 14 million. It's just like you're trying to chase a player down for 30 million, but you could have had someone for 14. It just crazy. It's beggars belief. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Moyes either turns down a player flat out. That all the work has been done to identify that could improve the squad or the first team. Or when he finally settles on a player, he just can't fucking let it go. Do you know what I mean? He has to have this player. Like he'll stick with it for fucking weeks. He'll waste so much time trying to get in this specific player, and like the Lingard saga was pathetic. Pathetic. It was like a fucking like a fucking love-struck puppy. They just couldn't fucking let it go. It's ridiculous.
Crazy. Right, gents, I'm going to call it a quits there. We've been going for just short of an hour. James, before you depart, please feel free to give your channel a little bit of a shout out, please.
Oh, thank you very much. E20 Zone TV, just follow us over there. Player ratings, a bit like what Gatesy does on here. Go and subscribe. It's very in-depth and highly opinionated, which is good. So go and check us out over at E20 Zone TV. Thank you very much.
Highly opinionated, you, James. I don't believe you. I'm sorry. Tommy, also give your particular stream a bit of a plug, mate.
Yeah, so I have my own show on Friday nights at 10 o'clock on the West Ham Network. It's called The Late Late Show with Irish Tommy. So if you fancy a chinwag, come on there. And also anyone who's in the live chat on that show, I will put the link for the show in the chat. And anyone who wants to pop on, have their say about whatever they want to talk about is welcome to jump on as well. It's an interactive show. I'm always heavy on the live chat interaction, so if you can join me Friday nights at 10 o'clock, that'd be fantastic. Brilliant.
And I'm much obliged to the pair of you for being able to turn up, boys, on your Tuesday afternoon. I am going to hit the Iron Supporting Food Bank promo. Guys, you're watching, if you could give that as your support, that would be very much appreciated. And as it says there on the banner, please don't forget to like, comment on and share this stream to your social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and hit the bell icon for alerts on new content. And as always, guys, we thank you very much indeed for your support. And I'm just going to finish with my usual, come on you Irons, and have yourself a great day, guys.
Forged from Iron is proud to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham United fans and friends inspired by the work of other football fan food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations from Newham Food Bank in Beckton, who supply 7 distribution centres in the borough, 7 days a week, and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. They are supported in their efforts by West Ham United Football Club, the WHU Foundation, LS185, London Legacy Development Corporation, Newham Council, the Met Police, Spire London East Hospital, Expedient Security, and a large number of West Ham and football fans. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thank you for your support. Come on, you Irons.